What you're looking at is a random experiment I decided to try with these TRC crossings in Trainz. So basically, I've been having this issue with random crossings on this one specific route where if I name one crossing 1 and something, and then I name another one 11 and something, and then I name another one 21 and something, the controllers of all those three crossings will recognize every crossing named 1, 11, and 21 as the same because one of the digits in the names is similar. Because it was 1 o'clock in the morning and I was out of options and couldn't think of anything at the moment, I came to the conclusion that perhaps the limit of these crossings has been lowered to just one digit for some reason. Slight problem with that though, there's only 10 one-digit numbers in existence. You can also use letters to name these crossings, but that limits you to just 36 characters. Only one problem with that, I have more than 36 crossings on this route. Not only that, but I even have plans to add more to this route. Then I had a light bulb moment. Don't I know a language that has way more than 36 characters in it? And it turns out I do, the Japanese language. So at that point I started to wonder, can Japanese symbols be displayed in this game, and can this game read Japanese symbols? As you can see by the results of this experiment, sort of. I mean, they display, but like the font is really bad. Like, I can read them, but they're very difficult to read in this font. But the fact that they can appear at all gave me a glimmer of hope, so I started doing some experiments with these crossings, specifically the ones that were giving me issues, and I started naming them random words in Japanese, basically just one random symbol. This experiment was mainly just to see if the script would recognize that a crossing had a random Japanese symbol as its name, or can you only use alphanumeric characters? I've never tried this before because in earlier versions of this game, you couldn't even display the symbols at all. It would just display as question marks. But now that they actually can display, I'm wondering if it's actually even possible. So without further ado, I give you test number 1. This is a new scenic railroad I added to the park. It climbs up some hills and cliffs on the edges of the park so that you can get a bird's eye view of the area. This line leads to a switchback, and since this game doesn't like it when trains run in reverse on AI, I added a cab car so that it would know what to do whenever the rear of the train is in the front. I may have to replace these semaphores with something else because it looks like their animations don't always work. Either that or I didn't set them up correctly. This driver was on their phone when the crossing was on and they didn't realize there was a train already on the tracks. When they finally looked up, they panicked and swerved, hitting the sign with such force that it knocked the 4-track sign loose. Thankfully, they missed the wigwag because we don't have replacements for those. This was my first attempt at making a fictional high-speed train for the United States, and as you can see, it's not that good. I mean, it's great for a first try, but it's not that good. I actually redesigned the front end of this train because someone complained that curved glass is actually illegal in real life. It has to be straight and bulletproof. Also, you'll notice it looks kind of pixelated and not very curved at all because I didn't know about smooth shading yet when I made this. And you'll also notice that it's not very reflective, even though it was intended to be, because I didn't know how to make reflective textures back then. The destination sign is a bit plain, and there is no destination sign on the interior of the train, which is a problem I fixed in an update. During a test run on my fictional Outer Banks bullet train route, I discovered that the engine sound is way too loud to be sitting in the train for 2.5 hours, so I decided to give it a quieter one in the future. Yeah, most of the textures that I used for this train were just random textures I downloaded from Google Images, and it really shows. Also, this door texture looks awful. Thankfully, in the future, I started using my own textures as I got a lot better at making them. But one thing I'm very proud of is the vestibule. This was my first attempt at making a vestibule, and my attempt was to make it so that it stays connected even on sharp curves, and is wide enough that you can easily fit luggage through it. That one turned out right. Here's where I accidentally placed a camera attachment point and a passenger attachment point in the exact same location. Here is an observation car that I added just for the Amtrak version of this train, designed specifically to compete with the Brightline bullet train, which did not have this feature. Man, look at these awful textures. This one is the cafe car. That's a supply closet for food ingredients and whatnot. Next to the bathroom? I don't know. Maybe not the best place for it. Interesting fact, the Brightline bullet train's cafe car also has these exact same attachment points for placing people in those locations, but I forgot to add the people. By the way, the bell is supposed to ring at all these crossings. The game seems to have forgotten that. I created a new route and then merged the railroad crossing museum with that route in order to update it. And it seems to be having a detrimental effect on the crossings because it doesn't even remember the custom settings I had for them. Man, I edited like 5 crossings and then I realized that I had been editing them under session and not under route. So I exited out the session and then started editing them in the route. I noticed the traffic lights were off, so I checked the controller and it turns out it was off the whole time. So I turned it back on and then set up the intersection. Okay, I got sidetracked. The actual reason I was here was to figure out what was going on with some of these crossings. This one, the cars didn't leave when the crossing turned off, and that's because I forgot to set this crossing up. Some of these crossings do not turn the traffic stopper off when they turn off, so to fix that, I hide a silent crossing underground somewhere, and then I tell that one to be controlled by the same controller, and when that one turns off, it turns the traffic stopper off. I always hide them underground, but I left one of them above ground to remind me that they exist. I plan on adding this route to the download station, and when I do, please do not delete these crossings that I have hidden underground. They are quite necessary to turn the traffic stopper off. If you delete them, it'll break the crossing, as you saw earlier. Now, earlier, the bells weren't even ringing on these crossings, even though they're equipped with one, so let's check the settings. Okay, it looks like they weren't set. Okay, the controller wasn't recognizing one of the crossings at this location, so I decided to rename the entire thing as Oka as an experiment to see how the game will respond to it. Oka, in case you're wondering, is Japanese for hill. Keep a close eye on that crossing, we will get back to it. Now these crossings also have bells, if I remember correctly, and they weren't ringing. It looks like they weren't set to ring. This is that crossing I told you about earlier, the one that I left above ground to remind me that I have some crossings hiding underground for the purpose of getting these crossings to turn off and actually allow the cars to go through. In case I forget that these crossings are here, which I apparently already have because I forgot to rename some of them. As I recall it, this one was a really problem crossing. It's supposed to be one of those crossings where two railroads are very close to each other, too close to have separate crossings, so each one maintains their own side of the crossing. The ones in the middle only turn on when there's a train on that set of tracks. But for some reason, all of them are turning on when one train activates it, and none of them are turning on when another train activates it. So let's figure out what that is. Okay, you're not gonna believe this, but the game actually renamed some of these crossings. So, one of the crossings here was named Hashi, which is Japanese for bridge, and another one was named something else. I forget what I named it, but the game renamed all of them to Hashi. So, a bit of an interesting glitch there. So, let's try renaming them back to what they were supposed to be and see what happens. As a pun, I'm going to name this one Hashi, which means chopsticks, but I'm going to keep the name Hashi, which means bridge, for the other one. And I'm going to name the third one Hashi, which means tip or edge of something. The reason why I'm doing this is I'm wondering if the issue is that the symbols happen to have the same sounds, or is it that the game just can't handle Japanese symbols at all? Right now, I'm naming this crossing Hashi, Hashi, and Hashi to see if the issue is that the symbols I'm using happen to have the same sound. And if the issue still persists, then it might be that. So I'll try using different sounding symbols. And if that still causes the crossing to not work, then I'll know for sure that the symbols themselves are causing the issue. Okay, these two crossings can probably be easily fixed because it looks like I just forgot to install some controllers or something. The main flashes, which will flash no matter which set of tracks the train is coming from, are set to K, so I'm going to call these controllers K. I'm going to name the other controllers something else so that the middle flashers will only come on if there's a train coming on that specific track, and they won't flash if there's a train coming on the opposite track. The middle flashers for this set of track is going to be called M. These crossings were set up to ring, but they didn't ring, so I'm going to check to see if they even have a sound effect to begin with. Okay, they do in fact have a sound effect, so actually I have no idea why they're not ringing. Okay, so this is really interesting. I named one of these crossings Kido, which is Japanese for railroad track, but it seems to have taken multiple crossings and named them all Kido and not just the one that I named that. It looks like the Japanese symbols are causing a glitch where the crossing doesn't know what to do, so it just takes one symbol and assigns that symbol to everything and not just the one I assigned it to. My goodness, what is this nonsense? But I don't understand. I only named one of them Kido. Why are you naming all of them Kido? What is going on here? Okay, this glitch is even more interesting now because according to this one that I hid underground, this crossing is actually supposed to be called Fumikiri, which is Japanese for railroad crossing. But the game instead decided, no, this is not railroad crossing, this is railroad track. The same name that I assigned to a different crossing somewhere else on this route. So it erased Fumikiri from all of these crossings and replaced them with Kido for some strange reason. You know, when I named these crossings at like 1 in the morning, they were working just fine and the controllers were recognizing the crossings just fine. I didn't like test it in driver. I only tested if the controllers could recognize the symbols, and I was gonna test it in driver the next day. So I turned the game off, turned the computer off, restart it, turn the game back on, and it does this. But why? What could have changed? So I'm going to try giving this crossing the name Kido and renaming all the other crossings something else just to see what happens. Actually, on second thought, the word Kido is obviously cursed, so instead I'm going to try a different symbol, the word Ki, which means mind. In fact, the issue might just be that I use 2 digits instead of 1, so I'm just going to stick to the 1-digit format just to see what happens. I'm going to test this against the other crossing that wasn't working and see if there's actually a difference between using a 1-symbol word and a word with 2 symbols. Okay, apparently it's not just the word Kido that's cursed in this game, it's also the word Hashi, which means bridge, because it renamed this crossing to bridge, even though I had another crossing somewhere else in this route named bridge. What is going on here? What are you doing to me? Why? I'm going to try renaming this one to Misaki, which means Cape, as in Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. Okay, script failure message over there. I'm guessing that's telling me that I shouldn't name it that? Who knows? Because I keep getting the script failure message a lot on this route. Sometimes it happens when I try to move a train, other times it happens when I try to rename this railroad crossing. The crossing appears to be recognizing the symbol Misaki, so let's just test it and see what happens. It renamed this one to Hashi, which means bridge. What's going on with that one? Why can't you just keep the name I gave you? Why do you have to randomly give yourself a different one? I didn't tell you to take this one. My goodness, these crossings have a mind of their own, and I swear they are playing tricks on me. I'm not feeling too adventurous right now, so I'm just gonna name this one the letter N. Okay, before testing this in driver, I'm checking again just to make sure it remembers the names that I gave these controllers and these crossings, just to see if the problem happens when I leave the route, or is it something that happens after a couple of minutes or something. It seems to have remembered the name. Oh wait, never mind. It seems to have named a lot of different crossings somewhere else on the route as bridge. Okay, so I guess it's not working. Okay, after renaming all of the rest of the crossings that are having this glitch, a random name either in English or Japanese just to see what happens, it is time to test this route once again in driver. In case you're wondering, it took me about 20 minutes to rename all these crossings. Even though all the crossings with the rotating stop sign were supposed to ring, this is the only one that did for some reason. Now, I did make some modifications to that crossing, and that might have been what fixed it. Let me show you what I did to that one specifically, as soon as I can find it, because my goodness, these names are really hard to look up. Yeah, I wasn't sure if that one was a lowercase L or a capital I. I hate the capital I on this keyboard. Well, on keyboards in general. Like, whose bright idea was it to make the capital I the exact same shape as a lowercase L on computers? I gave this a Trainz build number of 5.0, which is the exact same as the root that I'm working on. Interestingly, sometimes just changing the Trainz build number fixes a lot of problems with something. To edit the Trainz build number, edit it in Explorer and click on the config file and then just change Trainz build to 5. Or whatever Trainz build your version of Trainz is, because obviously if it's higher than the one that you're using, then it won't work. Then I look for a TRC crossing that actually works, like one of these that are already on the download station. Then I copy the script from a crossing that actually works and paste it into the crossing that isn't working. This crossing still wasn't working correctly, and I can see why. Apparently, the game forgot which name I gave this crossing and then just assigned a different name to it. Earlier I had one of them named Hashi for bridge, Hashi for the edge or tip of something, and Hashi for chopsticks, but it named them all to Misaki for cape, which is the name I gave another crossing earlier in this video. So, okay, that didn't work. Okay, using Japanese symbols to name these crossings may have been a mistake. Okay, since Japanese symbols clearly aren't working, I'm going to switch back to alphanumeric characters to see what happens. The crossing should work properly after that. Okay, not really sure why there are railroad crossing plates here. I don't remember putting these down here. In fact, there's not even a road here. Where did those come from? The game named these crossings Misaki and Kido, which are not the names I assigned it, so now I'm gonna rename them something in the alphanumeric alphabet. Also, I'm pretty sure I installed more controllers at that crossing. I think it might have deleted them for some reason. Either that or I am slowly going insane. Anyway, this crossing was working perfectly, so I don't have to do anything to that one. That one was also working perfectly, and that one, as well as the next ones. So those ones I'm not going to touch, because obviously if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, I've run out of letters and numbers in the alphanumeric system, so I named that crossing Z, which is what the letter Z is called in Europe. However, this might not work because, as I mentioned earlier, the issue I was having to begin with was that the game was taking every single crossing with multiple digits, where one digit was the same, and just combining them all as one crossing. So, I don't know, it might just repeat the same problem I was having earlier. This crossing apparently loves tormenting me. Only one of the flashers was working on the last test, even though they were both working on the first test. And apparently the issue seems to be that it renamed one of the flashers, even though I don't know. Did I even name that one a Japanese name? I don't even remember doing that. It might have just deleted the name I originally gave it and then just assigned a random Japanese symbol to it. Oh, and it named the underground one to Misaki. I may have accidentally given this game a virus that's spreading to all of my other crossings on this route. Alright, time for test number 3. There shouldn't be a single crossing on this route that has a Japanese name now, so fingers crossed that the crossings will actually do what they're supposed to do. Okay, again, one of the flashes in this crossing was not working, so let's see what's going on here. Okay, guys, I need you to confirm something for me. I'm not crazy, right? Did I not just spend the last hour renaming all of these crossings so that none of them had Japanese symbols as their titles? So why are some of these crossings named Ki and others named Misaki when I erased all of those names? What's going on here? Did I not just spend the last hour renaming all these crossings so that this glitch would hopefully go away? Okay, this time around, when renaming these crossings, I'm going to use the Find Object tool just to make sure there aren't any single crossings anywhere on this route that are using Japanese symbols as their names. This crossing is actually missing some controllers. I'm not sure if the game deleted them or did I just forget to install them. So just in case, I'm going to add them back right now. Okay, I know for a fact that I renamed this crossing. This game must be playing tricks on me at this point. Okay, right now I'm throwing everything at the wall in hopes that something will stick. Every time I rename a crossing, I'm going to delete missing assets. That sometimes fixes issues where the game keeps reverting back to a previously named object instead of the new name I was trying to give it. I've actually had this problem with other routes in the past on other versions of this game. This railroad crossing was named Shadanki, which means railroad crossing barrier. And this crossing was working and wasn't giving me any errors, so I haven't changed it. But I'm going to change its name anyway, just in case that's the cause of the problem. During some tests, I noticed these lights weren't changing, even though they are being controlled by a controller right now. I might have to just delete the controller and put a new one down to fix that problem. Okay, third time's the charm. Okay, I may have to delete this crossing and replace it with a bridge over the tracks or something. Okay, it's not even worth it to do the rest of this test because we know that this crossing isn't working. The question is why? I did rename it, did I not? Okay, let's see. Okay, what is going on here? You saw me rename that crossing, didn't you? Why is the name different now? Okay, to avoid wasting a ton of time again, I'm going to rename just this crossing and then save it and then come back to the root and see what happens. Please, 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 please. Okay, it did not save the name. I don't know why it didn't save the name, but it did not save the name. So apparently, no matter how many attempts I make at renaming this crossing, it's futile. I brought this curse upon myself. Now I just need to figure out how to lift it. Okay, I may have cursed this root beyond repair, because when you go to find objects and scroll to the bottom, you see that it did not save the names of any of those other crossings either, and it just changed them back to a random Japanese symbol. What have I done? Okay, now I'm gonna try naming the crossing 0 first, and then giving it its new name. Sometimes that fixes it when it's glitching out. Stay. Okay, that's a good railroad crossing. It kept its name this time. Did it? Let's find out. Okay, what did I do to deserve this? Someone, please tell me, what am I going to have to do to get this railroad crossing to save the name that I give it? Okay, I'm going to try one last idea. It's the last idea I have, and if this idea fails, then I'm going to have to delete this root and start over from scratch. But don't worry, we shall rebuild, stronger than ever before. I'm going to delete the crossing and put a new one down, and hopefully, this time, it'll save the name. Okay, are you going to be a good railroad crossing and save the name I give you this time? Okay, it's time for the moment of truth. Drum roll, please. Oh, thank goodness, it saved its name. So now, all I have to do is the one thing I really wish I wouldn't have to do, and delete all the crossings that are giving me this error, and putting new ones down. Okay, once I delete all these duplicate sessions that I keep accidentally making but can't figure out how to stop making, we'll be ready to test this railroad crossing once and for all. Okay, there's a slight alignment mistake I made with this crossing, which I will fix later. I'm still a bit hesitant to believe that all this was caused by just me using foreign characters to name the crossings. So in a later video, I'm going to create a brand new route and test this there to see if the problem still occurs. The reason why I'm skeptical about this is because, remember, I named one of the crossings Shadanki, and it wasn't glitched when I tested it. The name Shadanki didn't get transferred to other crossings in the route, and it also didn't have its name swapped for any of the other crossings anywhere in the route. So it might just be that those crossings specifically were already glitched to begin with. Well, that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.